What the fuck does it take to kill you? A lesson to learn when some pony tells you that you don't want to know something about some pony is that they probably mean it for a good reason. I really wish I would have learned that lesson before talking to the old synth. Sometimes knowing a great deal isn't as good as one might think. Lonely Hearts leaned back in his chair, taking a long pull of his cigarette. After a moment, he looked back at me. I first met Grim 5 years ago. She had just been ousted from the Steel Rangers. Back then, she was a pretty sweet gal, full of hopes and dreams. I remember her well, because unlike most ponies who search me out to help them find some pony else or get to the bottom of something, she wanted help finding a way into the Lucky Horseshoe. Wait a sec. You mean to tell me that my mother wanted to get into that big tower? Why? I interrupted. Shadow, if you want to find out, stop interrupting him, Aura said, sitting down next to me and making herself comfortable on the moldy office chair. Lonely Hearts waited a moment, then continued. Yeah, as I was saying, she wanted to find a way to get inside the Lucky Horseshoe. Told me she needed to talk to the pony in charge up there, Mr. Tops. I had to tell her what I tell everyone looking to break into anything around the strip. It's a stupid idea, and I don't help ponies with anything illegal, even if there isn't much illegal in the wasteland. Apparently, she didn't want to break in, only find a way to get in contact with Mr. Tops, so that he could let her in. When I asked her what she was looking for, she refused to say. When she found that I couldn't help her, she left. But she was back a few days later. I guess she was able to find some pony to help her, but he didn't let her in. I'm not sure what they talked about, but she was more excited than when I first met her. This time, she wanted my help with something completely different. She was looking for some pony this time. I interrupted again, ignoring the scowl I got from Aura. Who was she looking for? Lonely Hearts chuckled. A stallion. His name was... I don't remember. He looked down at the folder in front of him. That's right. His name was Striker, a Dashite originally from Nimbus. I guess she used to know him back in the day. He was some kind of terminal expert before he did something to piss off the Enclave. So I worked on the case with her for a few months and finally found something about him being in Hoofington. So, like a rocket, she went off and headed towards Goddesses knows where. Was that the last time you saw her? I couldn't help asking. Needed to know. I wonder what was so bad about her that he wanted to warn me about finding her. Mom was always the type of pony who went off on a whim. She had an idea, she had to act on it. He frowned, as if closing the folder on his desk. Oh, I wish it was. She was a nice gal back then. So full of charisma and gumption. The last time I saw her was 6 months ago. She came into my office looking for something. Something she left me before leaving for Hoofington. She came with another unicorn. A couple of Pegasi demanding I hand over what she'd left behind. I refused, and she almost destroyed my office. That was after she killed my last assistant when I wouldn't hand over what she was looking for. She would have killed me too, but secure ponies came and took care of business. Before she left, she told me to find a way to get back at me for betraying her. I don't know what happened to her in the years since we parted before that happened, but she wasn't the same mare I knew back then. Cold, heartless, and cruel. No, that couldn't be right. Mom wasn't that kind of pony. Yeah, she could get mean when she was mad or frustrated, but she wasn't cruel or heartless. I tried to say as much, but all I was able to do was squeak. Aura wrapped a talon around me and pulled me to her side as I sat there shocked. The wasteland is a hard place. It changes ponies. Who knows what happened to your mom? I'm sure there's a reason for it, and you should find out what it was. Lonely Hearts chimed in. I agree. I've been meaning to look into it myself, but I've been piling her cases lately and haven't had the time. I pulled away from my friend. What did she want you to get back to her? Oh yeah, I forgot to explain that. You see, years ago, before she ran off to find her Pegasus friend, she stayed here at the office at the time. She used to sit up in the room and make memory orbs or watch ones she'd collected over the years. She also used to talk to me about you, Shadow. Told me all about the daughter she'd left in the stable and how one day you'd find your way out of there. Yeah. She left me a note on my pip-buck saying I shouldn't look for her. She said I should head to Manhattan and move into some place called Ten Pony Tower. She told me about that, and the pip-buck you should have. She also told me that knowing how determined her daughter was, that you would most likely ignore her request and come looking anyway. She said that if you ever found me, that I should give you what she left me. He got up and walked over to the other room and returned with a small box. She said you should have this if we ever meet. I looked at it for a moment before opening it. Inside were 3 memory orbs. 2 looked normal. The last one was white. There was also a note inside with an audio recording. I pulled out the note and looked it over. Shadow, if you're reading this, it means you're either never found my note in the pip-buck, or you're excited to ignore my first request and come looking for me anyway. If I know you well, as I think I do, I'm guessing it's the latter. First, I wanted to say that I'm a little disappointed in you that you didn't find a safe place once you left Stable 28, but I'm also proud of you at the same time. I'm sure you're finding all this a little scary and difficult to understand. The recording I left will help explain more. At least I hope it will. I've left you with a few things that I hope will help you understand why I had to leave, and understand what was at stake. The memory orbs might help, but I won't be able to leave them with all the others that I've made in one place. I hope that you'll be able to find them when you search for me. 2 are my own. The other one, well, it's a memory I found, helpful in my research. I really don't need it anymore. Can't find much more on it that can help me, so I figured I'd let you have it. Maybe you'll enjoy it, or at least notice something I didn't. Please be safe out there, and make sure you don't let any pony get a hold of that pip-buck. The Mark II is one of only 3 that I know of. It holds a lot of secrets, and really, I wish I didn't have to leave it behind. But I couldn't let Elder Appleslice get it. I'll explain more on the recording. It can only be played on a pip-buck like yours. I love you. I looked up from the letter, in shock, then back at the recording and memory orbs. Why did she want these back? Beats me. I couldn't tell you, kid. Like I said, she wasn't the same. All I knew was the old Grimoire wanted her daughter to have this, and I couldn't just hand it over to whoever she'd become. If I didn't know what I was looking for in the synth replacement, I would have thought she was one of the Ministry Mayor's puppets. But to be honest, I think something deep inside of her changed. Cora spoke up. Didn't her mom ask not to help Shadow if she ever came looking for her? She did. But that was the last time I saw her. When she left me all this stuff, she asked me to make sure Shadow got it. Okay, so I'm lost. Her mother told you to give her this stuff, then she shows up years later and demands it back. Stardust asked. Nothing about Shadow's life makes sense, Wingnut said from the corner. I glared back at both of them before turning back to Lonely Hearts. Kind of agree with them. All this is too confusing. What do I do now? I couldn't tell you that. I did my part. I told you what I know and gave the information she left for you. He got up from his chair. How about this? You still want to find her, even after what I'll told you? I'll start looking into it. It took me a bit to make up my mind. On one hoof, I really wanted to find her and figure out what made her change so much. On the other hoof, I wasn't sure I could take seeing her like that. If I saw my mother working with the Enclave or being evil, I'm not sure I could take it. I also needed to know what was on this pip-buck, and how to remove it if necessary. As far as I know, she was the only one who knew how. Finally, I made up my mind. For now, I think I need to put my quest on hold to find her. There's a lot to process. I need to figure out what my next step is. The problem I have, though, is she's the only one who knows anything about the pip-buck 3000 Mark II. To my surprise, Lonely Heart's assistant said something. You could always go talk to the ponies in Trotson. I heard the leader of the town has a pip-buck 3000 Mark II. You have a point there. You should go see them, Lonely Heart said. remembered hearing about the town before Sapphire. I looked back at her and asked, "You mean the survivors from Stable 9? How do you know they have the other mark too?" She smiled sweetly, making my knees go weak. Lonely Hearts took a job from them a couple months back. I remember going with him and talking to their leader. He had a pip-buck like yours. They might be able to help you with it. Yeah, you'll be right. However, I still at least need to find out where Mom is. Think you can try and find her, Lonely Hearts? He gave me a smile. It was a little creepy since the chunk of his face was missing, but I appreciated it all the same.
I'll see what I can find. It'll probably take me a while, but I'll be sure to get a message to you when I do.
Thank you. Hard for me to understand what she's become, but I can't give up on her. I'll find something to do for now, at least until I'm ready. As I rose, getting up ready to leave, something caught my eye in the corner of his office. A statuette was sitting there, slightly covered by old files. Walking around the desk, I pushed the files aside and looked down at the yellow Pegasus mare with the pink mane. She was sitting down, holding a bunny in her hooves, surrounded by an assortment of animals. On its base, it said, "Be pleasant." It reminded me a lot of the other one I'd gotten from Honeysuckle back at Little Hoof. Hey, Lonely Hearts, what's this? I asked, looking back at him. He looked over his shoulder.
Oh, that? I found it on a dead mare a long time ago. That's the miniature mare Fluttershy. She used to run the Ministry of Peace. I've kept it around because it reminds me that things can always be better, even when times are tough.
I got something like this from a filly I helped a few days ago. Know anything about them?
Not much, but I heard they're a set. One for all 6 mirrors of the ministries. If you want, you can have that one. It's not doing me much good just laying around under papers all the time. If you have one, maybe you can get lucky and find the rest, too.
He said, getting up, picking up the statuette and giving it to me. Are you sure? I asked, taking the yellow mare into my magical field. As soon as my magic connected with it, something washed over me. I felt different in a way, almost like I could talk my way out of anything.
Go ahead. Like I said, not doing me much good nowadays anyway. It'd be good for her to find a new home,
he said with a smile. Thank you, Lonely Hearts. I placed the yellow Pegasus into my saddlebags next to Rarity.
We should head out, Shadow,
Cora said, putting her talon on my shoulder. Yeah, I agree, I said, looking back at her, then back to Lonely Hearts. Let me know when you find anything.
I'll be sure to do that,
he said, looking down at his files. The 4 of us walked out of the detective agency slowly, heading back towards the Strip. I was silent for a little while, the information of what happened to my mother still stirring around inside my head. None of it really made any sense. Why would she become so dark? Maybe something happened to her, or maybe it was all an act. Lonely Hearts said she was with 2 Pegasi. Maybe the information about her going to the Enclave was right. Why would she, though? What was this project she was working on that had taken her away from everything she loved? Took her away from me. Why leave on the orders of the Elder of the Steel Rangers, leaving me behind even though she was told not to? Then she goes off to find some Pegasus in Hoovington. Now she was with what sounded like the Enclave. The Enclave. Everything seemed to keep leading back to them. With my life, Stardust's, even my mother's. What did they all want out of us? Stardust was a runaway from his stable. I pissed off the wrong pony, who I was looking for, my friend, and both of us had to watch out for the sins now. What did Mom have to do with any of it? Why did she leave me all this information to follow and then turn around and want to take it all back? The only thing I could think of was that something was hidden on my pip-buck. But if that was the case, then why didn't she just come back and get it herself? Nothing was adding up. I wanted to find out more, but how? Who could tell me more about what happened to them back then? The answer was Auntie. She was still in the stable. I couldn't go back there now. If I did, the Overmare would have me killed. I just wished there was a way to get a message to her. As far as I knew, the Overmare was the only pony who could get a message out to the wasteland.
Looks like you've got a lot on your mind,
Aura said, nudging me with a wing. I looked up at her. Yeah, sorry about that.
You don't have to apologize. You've been through a lot the past few days. I'm surprised you haven't cracked already.
I thought I did back when I was trying to get back to the Steel Rangers. Who knows, maybe I did. I feel so numb and confused right now. Nothing I find is adding up. Stardust looked back at us. What happened to you back then wasn't you going crazy or anything, Shadow. You were trying to survive. You feel how you do right now because you just took a lot of information in that you weren't ready for. It'll take time for you to comprehend everything that you've learned, but I promise that sooner or later you'll feel better. Sure about that? It took me a couple of months to come to terms with what had happened back in my stable. I know what I'm talking about. He gave me that signature goofy Stardust smile, and then continued walking on. Wingnut slowed his walk and came up next to me.
Listen, Shadow. When my parents died, I was all alone. I didn't think I'd ever be happy again. Then I found Little Hoof and made new friends. That is, until my cutie mark showed up, and I became ostracized there. I felt alone again. But then later, you found me. Albeit I probably swallowed more than I could handle. At times, it seems like the wasteland is out to get you. Then, sometimes, something amazing happens, and life doesn't seem so bleak.
Damn, that kid was way too wise for his age. I roughed his mane like Balefire used to do mine. Thanks, kiddo. You really have a way of cheering me up. You remind me of an old friend of mine. He beamed up at me.
Was he your buck friend?
There it is. The Colt reappears with his snarky attitude. No, he was just a friend and that's all. Just like you. We've already had this conversation.
Sure, you say that now. But one day you'll see that I'm a strong stallion and you'll fall head over hoof for me.
Then he walked away with a masculine strut, leaving me there with my mouth wide open and Aura snickering next to me. Trying to get my mind off my mother, and to get my friends to stop teasing, I decided to change the subject. So, where do we go from here?
I say we see if we can find any jobs to do. I mean, we aren't doing great on caps, and side jobs could help us build that up. And it could help you keep your mind off the crap going on,
Aura suggested.
We can go back to the casino and relax again. That was a lot of fun.
Wingnut added. I think we should find a way to deal with them, Stardust suggested. I looked over at him. Deal with who? He pointed through the gate that led back to the strip at two ponies who were standing on the other side, both looking right at us. It was Gluttony and Sloth. The latter looked bored, the former looked pissed. Gluttony pointed over at me.
See? He's right there. I'm going to eat her now.
Gluttony, you know the rules. Can't do anything while we're on the strip. We'll have to wait until she's outside the city,
Sloth said, yawning wide.
No, I'm not waiting. He trapped me in a room and called me mean names. She dies now,
Gluttony said, walking towards me.
I don't think so, lardass,
Aura said, pulling out her spear. Stardust and Wingnut pulled out their weapons too. I, however, just laughed. Really? So after all that bullshit back at the stable and everything else, you're really going to fight me here? Sloth yawned again and rolled his eyes.
No, he's not. Honestly, if we could, I wouldn't have a problem with it.
I don't get it. Why the fuck are you after me? I can't believe that the Enclave would put so much energy into finding me just because I'm traveling with Stardust. And because I pissed off some Enclave lackey.
Sloth, let me eat her,
Gluttony complained.
Shut up, Gluttony,
He said, then looked back at me.
You really think we're after you because of one insignificant soldier, or because you're traveling with someone?
Yeah? Why else would you be after me? He started to laugh.
A few days ago, we got reports about a courier mare who used a spell so powerful she blasted a hole in the cloud layer. The Enclave notices things like that. With the report we got from Captain Winterfrost, and what you did to the cloud layer, the Enclave High Council decided that you were too much of a threat. In order
went out to have you eliminated. Then we found out you were traveling with Stardust. The orders changed to capture and interrogate, possibly torture, then eliminate. Really? They wanted me dead because I blasted a hole in the clouds? It was official. I hated this stupid fucking Enclave and their idiotic propaganda paranoia. Sighing deeply, I pulled out my shotgun. That has to be the stupidest reason I've ever heard in my life. And trust me, I've heard some really stupid things since I've gotten out into the wasteland. I can't take it anymore. By the time I finished, I was yelling. Aura walked over to me and pushed my gun down. Shadow, calm down. These idiots can't do anything while they're on the strip. You can just walk away and ignore them like you did with Pride. Rounding on my friend, I shouted in her face. No! Fuck them and fuck their stupid Enclave. We aren't in their stupid land. We don't have to play by their rules. They can't just decide they don't want something some pony did and kill them and to feel like they accomplished something. That's bullshit. I'm done with them and all of this. I want them dead or to go away and leave me the fuck alone. I have enough to deal with. I agree with you. But what can you do? You can't go up there and threaten them to leave you alone. No. Screw that. They need to fuck off or die. Just like the other assholes who tried to kill me. I'm sick of dealing with them, and the idiots keep standing after me. Especially these two imbeciles. Shadow, Stardust started to say. I rounded on him next. What? He pointed a hoof over my shoulder at Gluttony. I think you should stop. He doesn't look too happy right now. I looked back at the horrible, gluttonous blob of Pegasus. His face was red and his whole body was shaking. Through his clenched teeth, he said,
Is the tiny pony calling me stupid?
No, I'm talking about the other fat ass who has an IQ of whatever the dumbest monster in the wasteland is. I mocked, having enough of this ridiculous hunting game.
She's calling me stupid. I'm not stupid. She's stupid. I'm going to eat her.
Gluttony yelled. Oh, fuck. If I were you, Shorty, I'd run. Sloth said, backing away from Gluttony. Fuck you too, lazy ass. Why the fuck should I run away from any of you? You're all a bunch of posers. Because I can't control Gluttony when he gets this angry, he said, looking ready to run. Wait, what? Before I could ask what he meant, Gluttony came at me. For a fat pony, he could move pretty fast. He grabbed me with his blubbery hooves and launched us into the air. He blasted us over the wall, screaming the whole time. His forelegs were squeezing me so tight I thought my head was going to explode. We flew right over Freedom and to the outskirts near the wall that surrounded the town.
I'm going to eat you, so you can't call me stupid ever again.
He screamed at me. Okay, I don't feel like dying at this particular moment. I jammed my horn up and under his chin. Blood flew and he screamed again. I figured he'd drop me like when Aura came after me. Nope. Instead, he threw me towards the ground. My body slammed into something. It wasn't quite soft, but it didn't feel like I'd broken anything with the hit. Moaning a little, I got to my hooves, wincing as my body protested from the fresh scrapes and bruises. I looked up at Gluttony and gave him my best "fuck you" smile I could muster. That's all you got? And here I thought you were supposed to strike fear in anyone who crosses your path. He screamed again and dove at me. Yes, he was fast, but it still took a lot more to move such a large body. I was able to dodge to the side, ignoring the waves of pain running through my back and sides. I pulled out a Med-X, for all your little owies, and jammed the needle into my leg, squeezing the plunger at the end. A wave of relief ran through my body as the painkiller did its job. Gluttony hit the ground hard and twisted around, glaring at me.
No fair. You can't be so fast after falling like that.
My pitched voice was really getting annoying. I just smiled at him and pulled out my shotgun. Oh, really now? And is it fair that you grabbed me from the strip so you could kill me?
Rules said I can't seat you there. So I took you here. No rules against that.
He said, walking towards me.
His wide mouth broke into a grin, showing me his razor-sharp teeth. I didn't remember them looking so sharp before. It was almost like Gator, only Gluttony had something shining around them. What are you, anyway? How could you just eat ponies like you do? I said, firing at him. The buckshot just rolled around him like he had some kind of shield spell. Why can't I shoot you?
Pride gave me a rock that keeps me from getting shot. And I don't eat ponies. I eat anything I can,
He said with a savage glee drooling from his mouth. Yeah, you're a special brand of nuts, I said as I shot again. The same thing happened, and Gluttony's smile only growing.
No, I'm not. I'm Gluttony the Ravenous, 7th member of the 7 deadly sins of Equinity,
He said, inching towards me with every step. Wow, he can say big words. No idea.
You'll die, and I'll eat you. And part of our mission will be complete.
I knew I couldn't beat him like this. He was strong. Stupid, but strong. And he was also fast and able to bite through a pony's flesh like it was butter. If he got too close to me, I'd be dead in a matter of seconds. I had to do something to even the odds. What was it that Aura told me about some drugs in the wasteland? Some could enhance your strength and speed. She also said something about them being dangerous. Well, what I was facing right now was dangerous, so which was worse? Oh well, I'll risk the drugs versus the cannibal who was trying to kill me. Shoot first, ask questions later. Seemed like a good idea. Quickly, I pulled out and injected a drug that I found from one of the shops called Rage, then followed it up with an inhaler of Dash. A burning sensation ran through my body, and I roared in pleasure and pain. My vision focused on one thing, the fat beast in front of me. I started to laugh as my perception of time seemed to slow, almost like I was entering Sats, only I could move. Oh wow, I could move. I ran up to the fat, now slow-moving Pegasus, and bucked him as hard as I could under the chin, right where I stabbed him with my horn. Time seemed to resume to normal. The Gluttony flew up and back from my kick. His shield spell thing protects him from bullets, but it didn't seem to stop him from a pony's hooves. He didn't go far, but when he got back, he was bleeding a little, his smile now gone.
My turn.
Oh shit, I said as he dashed at me, bucking me as hard as he could. Something cracked inside my chest as his hoof connected, throwing me back a lot further than he'd gone. He pounced on me and went to rip out my throat like he did the stable, his glowing teeth burning like hot embers. I threw my pip-buck into his mouth. His teeth came down and bit. The pip-buck stopped him, and a tooth cracked over its polished finish. He howled in pain and jumped off me.
That hurts. Why did you do that?
What? Is my pip-buck a little too much for you to swallow? He screamed again, and attacked. This time I was ready for him. I teleported behind him, then bucked him as hard as I could, or at least that's what I tried to do. He jumped out of the way, then whirled around and bit into my duster, pulling hard. Luckily, his teeth missed my flesh, but to my horror, as he pulled back, most of the armored barding ripped away, mostly destroying the last gift I'd gotten from box tape. Only a strip was left hanging over my shoulder like a short cape. He spat out the rest and grinned.
Look, the short one lost her armor. Now I can eat you easier.
Stupid son of a bitch! That was a gift from a special friend of mine! I yelled, dodging his next attack.
No more talking. It's time for you to die,
He said, charging at me again, his mouth open wide. I noticed a glowing talisman embedded in his tongue. I dodged as he sunk his teeth into the ground like it was butter. He spit out the clumps of dirt and came at me again. I flinched, expecting to get eaten alive by the monster. When I noticed that he hadn't done anything, I looked up to see Aura on top of him, tearing at his face with her talons. In the distance, I could see Stardust carrying Wingnut in the sky as he aimed Stardust's rifle and fired. However, the shot missed, so he fired again. Another miss. He flailed as Aura thrashed his face and threw her off. He started to look around. There was something off. I think she blinded him.
I can't see you, but I can smell you. And you smell delicious.
His head turned my way and he lunged forward. I dodged him again and rolled, pulling out my shotgun to get a point-blank shot. When he came at me, I pointed it at him and waited for the right moment. Right as I pulled the trigger, he bit off the barrel of my shotgun, blasting him in the face with shrapnel. Yes!
Ow! That really hurt.
No. I used what was left of my gun to strike him across the face, hoping to stall him for another few seconds. What was I going to do? Bullets can't hit him. I couldn't go anywhere near his head, and to top it all off, he can take a lot of damage. Then I remembered FNF tools. I quickly grabbed an incendiary grenade, pulled the stem, threw it in his path, and ran. It exploded, setting him ablaze as he screamed. Looking back, expecting to see screaming charred pony, what I got was one pissed-off burnt Pegasus. He was still on his hooves, staring at me. His eyes were bleeding, his face was burned, and a good amount of his mane was gone. But his armor seemed to protect him from most of the blast. What the fuck does it take to kill you? I asked, taking a step back. I had nothing left to throw at him. Bullets couldn't hurt him. A fucking grenade barely hurt him. He was way too fast for something his size, and he was strong.
You die now.
He charged me again, taking me in his hooves and throwing me across the road. I hit the ground hard, rolling. He came at me again, and with only a little luck, I was able to summon my teleportation spell and get behind a wall of a fallen building. Bringing up my pip-buck, I checked what I had that I could use to hurt this monster.
Shadow, run!
Aura yelled as she flew by me, her energy spear arcing around. I watched as she flew in and slashed a Gluttony. He tried to bite the spear as it came at him, but Aura arched it out and slashed him across the face. He screamed and his hoof came up, hitting the griffin hard, throwing her back into the wall I was hiding behind. Aura!
I'm okay. It looks like magical weapons can't get past his shield. I think I blinded him,
she said weakly. I went back around the wall and took one of the last healing potions and gave it to her. Drink this.
No, I'll be fine. You need it,
she said, wincing in pain. No, I'm fine. You need it. Before she could argue more, Gluttony pounced at us, blood flying from his face as he bit down towards me. I jumped out of the way, then again as he kept coming after me. How the fuck do you know where I am? I asked. There was a long slash along his eyes. If he wasn't blind before, he definitely was now, but he still kept coming. I teleported again, staggering and reappearing. My heart rate was going up some and my vision was blurry. He wasn't moving, his ears up and his nose held in the air.
Where did you go? You can't hide from me long. I can smell you. And hear you.
You could what? What else could this fucking thing do? Deciding not to risk it, I pulled up my pip-buck again, seeing what I could use, which sadly wasn't much. The one gun I had left that had any ammo was useless against him. The other was a stupid toy gun I got from the Zebra Colt.
Hey! Over here, Rock for Brains!
I heard the voice of Wingnut yell. Oh, fuck no. I looked over towards the gate, to Freedom seeing the Colt. He was pulling out his revolver and pointing it at Gluttony. Gluttony's ears perked up, and he flew towards the Colt, his maw open. I grabbed some dash from my bags, took the chem, and ran towards Wingnut. Before Gluttony could eat him like an appetizer, I tackled him out of the way right before Gluttony landed. Grabbing the Colt with my magic, I put him on my back and ran for it. Are you crazy, Wingnut? You shouldn't be here.
Why not? I can fight too.
Not this guy, you can't, I said, looking around for Stardust. Where the fuck did he go? Could have sworn he was here a second ago.
I'm going to eat all of you!
Gluttony yelled, flying after us. There was a crack and a scream from Gluttony. Looking back, I saw the large pony was on the ground, a bloody hole in his flanks. Looking up on top of a building, I saw Stardust. He was sighting down his rifle. There was a flash, and another hole appeared in Gluttony's flank, followed by another yell. How the fuck did he do that? Gluttony jumped to his hooves again and looked towards Stardust. His ears perked.
You shot me. I'll eat you slowly for that.
He fired again, but this time the bullet arced around him, like all the times I tried to shoot him. What if... Using my magic, I grabbed the revolver from Wingnut. Ignoring his protests, I pointed it at Gluttony and fired 3 rounds into his ass. To my amazement, They hit. Oh yeah, I found a blind spot. Woohoo! Winning! I said, jumping up and down. Hey Stardust, his shield doesn't work from behind. Aura landed next to me. She still looked worse for wear, but ready to fight, as Gluttony swung around and howled at us. Aura chuckled a little.
Looks like we pissed the big baby off. Good job, Shadow.
Thank you, I said, pointing a hoof at Gluttony. So, what now, big guy? He screamed at us and charged again. Aura pushed me to one side and dodged to the other, Wingnut holding on for dear life as we went flying, barely dodging Gluttony.
I'll keep him distracted. Try and shoot him as much as you can. That armor of his can't hold up forever.
Aura yelled as she swung her spear at him. For a pony who was burnt, shot up, and blind, he was still putting up one hell of a fight. He somehow dodged every strike Aura was throwing at him. I kept shooting at him with Wingnut's revolver, but it wasn't doing much as my shotgun would. That combat armor he wore was strong stuff. Stardust, he was doing much better. He must have had armor-piercing rounds in his rifle, because every shot he took punched holes in the armor, blood flying with each shot. Aura dodged another attack, tried to stab him in the chest, then Gluttony moved with insane speed again. In a flash, his mouth came down and bit into Aura's wing. She screamed as she fell to the ground, blood flying from the appendage. I had no idea what I could do. If it didn't act quick, Aura's wing would be gone, or worse. Wingnut acted quicker than I did. He reached into my saddlebags and pulled out a grenade with a dark blue band on it, tossed it at Gluttony, and yelled,
Stop using your magic!
Having no idea what he was talking about, I did so. I dropped my magical field around the revolver. A second later, the grenade went off, and a flash of blue and green light flew around all of us. For a moment, I thought nothing happened. I felt fine, and no one seemed to be dead. Then I noticed Gluttony. He was just standing there, his muzzle open. He dropped Aura's wing and looked around in confusion.
What happened? Why can't I smell you anymore?
He said. What did you do, Wingnut?
Magical disruption grenade. I found it while I was digging in your saddlebags. Figured it might stop whatever was making him so tough.
He said simply, jumping off my back.
The effects won't last long, though.
Picking up the revolver in my muzzle, I hit Sats, and fired 3 more shots into Gluttony. 2 hit his neck, and the 3rd missed. A shot rang out from above us as the targeting spell ended, and blood flew from Gluttony's legs. He fell to the ground with a roar of renewed pain. Blood was starting to pool under him. I ran over to check on Aura. Are you okay?
Stop asking me that. I'll be fine. He just shot through my wing is all. Couple healing potions and I'll be fine.
I looked over at Gluttony as he lied in a pool of blood, and asked, What are you? He giggled a little.
I told you before, dum-dum. I'm Gluttony the Ravenous, 7th member of the 7 Sins of Equinity. I eat ponies. I was punished for it. Now I eat ponies for the Enclave. This won't kill me. Soon I'll be up and I'll eat all of you.
A sharp pain erupted in the back of my mind, and the voice of Morningstar said softly, If you don't kill him, he's going to be back. You got lucky this time. But what about next time? You can't let him live. I shook my head, doing my best to ignore her words, but I still picked up Aura's energy spear and pointed it at him. Why are you really after Stardust and me? He didn't answer. He just started to giggle. Stardust landed next to me, his rifle slung over his shoulder. Don't kill him, Shadow. We need to see what we can learn from him. If we let him live, he'll just come after us again. I can't let that happen. Shadow, there's always another way. Gluttony could tell us a lot about the sins, and what they were sent here to do. Let's stop the bleeding and get him out of here before Sloth decides to stop being a lazy ass and come find us, he argued. Morningstar pushed at the back of my mind again. You know what'll happen if you let him live? He'll kill all of you. He's dangerous. What should I do? Who am I to decide who lives and dies? He was just a pony who was sent to kill us. He wasn't dangerous right now. We could learn a lot. Stardust was right about that. After seeing what he could do, what if he did kill us? I couldn't let that happen. I wouldn't lose my friends because of one pony's information. He was a fat, ignorant slob. What could he tell us anyway? It was just like with Nightstalker the day that he killed that zebra. Gluttony was scum and would only tell us lies. My horn glowed brighter. Fuck you, fat ass. You're useless to us, but you can serve as a message to your friends to not mess with us. And before Stardust could stop me, I pressed the glowing spear through Gluttony's left eye and out the back of his head. He twitched and let out a soft breath. He died slowly, falling away from the glowing spear as what remained of his life slipped away. I flicked the blood off and looked over at Stardust as he started to shout at me. What the fuck, Shadow? You didn't have to kill him. He could have had useful information. He was the enemy. He would have only told us lies. How do you know that? Do you know how hard it is to capture one of them alive? I reeled on him. I'm not going to let a freak like him live. You didn't see what he could do back in the stable. I don't care what you think he knows. He needed to die. Stardust looked like he was ready to explode. Then out of nowhere, a rock hit him in the back of the head, followed by Wingnut saying,
But both of you stop fighting. Stardust, you can't change what happened. You have to admit, Shadow has a point. He was a blithering idiot.
My friend looked back at the colt, rubbing the back of his head, and then he sighed. Fine, she has a point. But it still wasn't right. I agree we can't keep fighting like this. We'll talk about this later, Shadow. Fine with me. Now can we see what he has on him and get back to Freedom Town before Sloth shows up? Or worse? Shadow just nodded his head, not looking me in the eyes. I walked over and searched for anything Gluttony had on him. On the side of his armor, there was a pocket with a recording in it, with a note. Taking both of them and slipping them in my saddlebags for later, I returned to my friends. Aura was looking better. She was just picking up her spear. Wingnut was watching me, and Stardust was ignoring me. I walked over to him and tapped his shoulder. Hey, sorry I upset you, but could you not ignore me? Glancing over at me, he said, I'm just upset is all, and I figure I can't stay mad forever. I'm just disappointed. I know you are, but I had my reasons. Can we at least call a truce and head back? You're still my friend, Stardust. I don't like seeing you like this. I guess, for now I'll let the matter drop. So where to next? We all started to head back to the Gate to Freedom. I took a moment to think about it. Like I was saying before, I think I'm going to hold off on searching for my mom. I need to look at those memory orbs and think more about what happened to her. For now, we should head to the Queen's. He looked at me a little confused. Why would we go see them? Oh yeah, I forgot to tell him about Queen's message. He smiled a little sheepishly. Well, you see, the Queen herself kinda helped me back when I ran into Raph. She told me to let you know that she wanted to see you as soon as possible. He stopped a moment. Wait a sec. When did she tell you this? A couple of days ago. And you're just telling me this now? The fuck kind of courier are you? Can't even give a message to some pony on time. Hey, I had a lot of things going on if you haven't noticed. Yeah, like getting drunk and fucking that singer. Before I could retort to his comment, Aura punched him in the back of the head. Hey, watch it, Cloud Breath. You don't need to bring that up. Hey, that hurt, Bird Brain. No, I'm not going through this again. Both of you shut up. Then I looked at Stardust. Yes, I forgot to tell you. I'm sorry. Now let's get going, I said, walking past both of them and towards the gate. Wingnut close behind.
Sometimes I think I'm the only mature one in this group,
McCold said, keeping stride with me. Those two can't seem to help themselves when it comes to arguing. For some reason, Stardust doesn't trust or like Griffins. It could have something to do with what he learned living in a stable. Not sure. He's never explained it to me before. Aura just doesn't like him because he's an ass to her, I explained, moving past the gate and back into Freedom.
Why don't you just let them go at it? Maybe one good fight and they'll stop arguing all the time.
The last time they fought, they almost killed each other. I'm not going to risk that again. What they really need is to sit down and talk out their differences. Wingnut laughed a little.
That'll never work. We used to try doing that with some of the fillies and colts back at Little Hoof. They always ended up calling each other names and fighting anyway.
Yeah, the ponies in Little Hoof are foals. These two are semi-mature adults. If they can't figure out their differences, then I'll make them.
Why would they listen to you?
Because I'm the leader? Isn't that how things work?
Maybe if you were running a town. But both of them are older than you. Yeah, they both follow you. Aura because she's under contract, and Stardust because he's bored or something. Point is, they see you as the new Wastelander fresh from the stable. In their eyes, you're just a filly trying to get by and lead.
He said a little wisely. And this kid was too smart for his age. You have a point, but I'm still grown up. And I'm sure they'll listen to me if I put my hoof down.
Maybe where you're from you are, but out here you're still young. I mean, hell, you're only a couple years older than I am. And look how they treat me.
I stopped for a moment, looking back at the colt.
You know that. What? Your age? I just did the math. It wasn't really hard once I started to hear your story from you and Stardust. I mean, really. If you want them to listen, you have to act like a leader. You can't just go around telling them to stop. The mayor back at Little Hoof, he would listen to the problems of the foals around him and figure out the best way to resolve the differences with any pony who needed it. He would rarely yell or threaten us with anything unless he had to. That was only last resort.
You know, I never thought about it that way. Thanks, Wingnut. I'll try to see if I can figure out what the problem is with both of them and resolve the differences between them. I said with a smile. How are you so smart? He shrugged a little.
When I first got to Little Hoof, the mayor put me in charge of some of the younger foals. I had to grow up a little when that happened. He always said I was destined to become a future leader.
Stopped for a moment, looking back at his flanks.
And I got my cutie mark and had to leave.
I smiled a little. Definitely a tougher kid than I was. Before I left the stable, all I did was hang out with my friends and sleep most of the day. I didn't do much of anything. Even when I was in class, I ignored most of what our teacher had to say, and just felt sorry for myself because I was the only unicorn in the stable.
Ah, you're stronger than you think, Shadow. I mean, hell, most pony from a stable, like you, wouldn't have even lasted 2 days in the wasteland. You might not know much about how things work out here, but you try and learn. It's amazing you've been able to accomplish such stuff in such a short amount of time. Don't sell yourself short.
He said, then trotted past me up to the neon building that was the Queen Gang home. I was about to walk in when Stardust and Aura both blocked her way. Okay, what's up now? I asked, giving them both a funny look. Aura spoke first.
Listen, we're both sorry about what happened back there. You know, we both don't get along, and after seeing you get taken away again, and having to fight by yourself like that, we both kind of panicked and lost our cool.
Yeah. We wanted to say sorry, Shadow, for being stupid. We'll do our best not to fight. At least not in front of you. Stardust added. I just smiled and shook my head. No, I'm sorry for yelling at both of you so much. Yeah, I get it. You both don't really get along, and I really don't understand why. Maybe someday I will. I'd like to, so we can all continue on with our lives and not have to worry so much about walking on eggshells. So sometime soon, I want all three of us to sit down and talk this out. Can we do that? They both looked at one another, then finally both nodded and said in unison, Agreed. Good. Let's head inside and see what the Queen wanted. Oh, and try not to eavesdrop too much next time. I'm not having a conversation with either of you, I said, pushing the door open and followed by my friends. The entry was not what I expected from what the outside looked like. It was just a plain entryway with a reception desk and a couple doors on each side. A few of the mares and stallions I'd seen before when they helped me with Wrath were chilling around the room, talking with one another and drinking. One of the stallions saw us walking in and came over to us. Welcome to the Queen's School of Interpretation. What brings y'all here? The Queen herself asked us to stop by. She wanted to be with my friend Stardust, and she said she might have a job for me.
For anything like you as business with the Queen? I find that a little hard to believe.
I looked back at my ripped-up duster and my barding, along with my mane, which was still down, and the marks I had all over me from the fight with Gluttony, then just smiled. Yeah, I'm Shadowstar, the courier mare from the radio. To my shock, he just gave me a sardonic look and said,
If you want to see the Queen, it'll be 50 caps. That's the toll for getting past the front room.
I smiled and said as sweetly as I could, Now, don't tell me a nice stallion like yourself is trying to hustle caps out of a mare like me. I mean, I'd hate for the Queen to find out what you were asking. Caps for her guests. Man, you wouldn't want to keep her waiting, would you? He blushed a little and stuttered,
No, I wouldn't want to do anything like that. I guess it's okay just this one time.
Thanks. Where's she at?
She's in the other room to your left.
He said, backing up and walking away, blushing fiercely.
Damn, Shadow. Didn't know you could talk your way around a buck like that.
Aura commented, looking over at the blushing stallion who was now sitting in one corner doing his best not to look my way. How do you think I keep Stardust around? I teased, walking up towards the door.
It's true, she gives me those puppy dog eyes and I just can't say no.
He laughed, following me.
What about me? She didn't use any puppy dog eyes to get me to follow her.
Wingnut threw in.
That's because you got a crush on her when she saved you and you couldn't help yourself. Especially when you got an eyeful of something you probably shouldn't have seen. Only in a burn-up porno mag.
Aura said, laughing as the colt blushed. After a giggle session, I pushed the door open and walked into the next room. The Queen was sitting at a table in the center of the room, watching as a mare sang a song about love and loss on the stage. She was tapping her hoof to the table, matching the beat of the music, humming to herself a little. As we approached, she looked over and gave me a big smile.
Well, look who the cat dragged in, if it isn't the curry mare herself. Took you a while to finally pay me a visit.
Sorry about that. I've been a little busy dealing with the typical wasteland drama.
And I see you brought old Dusty along with you and a couple others. Who might your friends be?
She asked, turning in her seat to get a look at Aura and Wingnut. This is Aura. She's my bodyguard and friend. And Wingnut's a colt that we found in the woods being attacked by bugs. They both nodded towards the Queen. Then she nodded back. Nice to see you found some friends.
Have you had much trouble since I last saw you?
Stardust spoke up.
It's good to see you, Queen.
And yes, she has. Shadow has a tenacity to find trouble wherever she goes. We just got back into town after killing a member of the Sins. The music stopped as the Queen got a horrified look on her face.
You did what? Dusty, tell me you're kidding around with me.
He's not. We just got in a fight with Gluttony. Him and Sloth cornered us back in the strip. Gluttony went nuts and attacked me, then carried me outside the town trying to kill me. I had to do something. So after a bit of a fight, I was able to kill him. Honestly, I'd say good riddance. He was a creep and dumb as a sack of hammers, I said, unsure if what the big deal was. The Sins seem to be a problem around here, and killing one of them should seem to knock them down a notch.
Damn, that ain't good news.
If y'all killed a member of the Sins, you ain't gonna scare him away. You're only gonna make him come after you harder. Y'all got lucky, only fought one of them. Most of the time, they fought in pairs or more. Damn it, Shadow. You know what you did. I don't see what the big deal is. Yeah, he was hard to fight, but only because he got the drop on me. I was able to kill him. How hard could the rest be? She face-hoofed. Shadow, darling. Gluttony is the 7th member of the Sins. He was weakest by far, but he was still one of them, and they make sure to kill any pony who takes down one of their own. Y'all just jumped to the top of their kill list. Ah, fuck. Gluttony was the weakest member of the Sins? That had to be a lot of horse apples. He was one tough motherfucker. If he really was the weakest, what were the others like? I gave a weak smile. So any chance they'd overlook an ignorant stable mare, and if not, do you have any advice? She sighed and looked over at Stardust. Remember when they were coming after you a couple months back, Dusty? I sure do. It was hell for me for a while there. What did I tell you to do to get away from them? She asked. You told me to run as far from this place as I could. She then looked back at me. That's the only advice I can give you. Pride and the others are from Stardust, Cloud City northeast of here. They mostly stay near New Pegasus and don't want to fire unless they're ordered to. Y'all have to do what Dusty did. You'll have to either leave the city and get as far away as you can, or hide in the strip till they decide you aren't worth the trouble. Gluttony was stupid to attack you there and fly you out of the city like he did. The rest of them wouldn't dare do something that stupid. Topsy's probably more pissed than a shaking Cazador nest right about now. So you want me to run away? I don't. But it's the best thing you can do if you want to not meet your demise anytime soon, she said. Unless you want to do a job for me, that is. How would doing a job for you help me stay safe from them? It's simple, honey. I need you to go to a cave for a few things that are wish of the city. It'll take you a while to do and keep you from meeting them in the time being. I know a town of sorts up in the mountains that no one in the Enclave would ever go up to. Before I could answer her, a loud boom came from the front room. In seconds, the Queen was on her hooves. Another second later, one of the gang poked his head in through the door. Queen, Pride's here to see you. Damn, I wonder what he wants, she said, looking over at me. Head up to my quarters. I'll take care of Pride, and then we can finish up talking. She walked out, shutting the door behind her. I could hear her talking on the far side of the room. Right, honey. Now why don't you have to go and blow my front door off? That might rude of you, and ain't too neighborly.
Where is she, Queen? I know she came this way.
Pride's voice said from behind the door. Who would you be referring to?
The courier mare. You know who I'm talking about, Queen. Tell me where she is before I find her myself.
The rest of the conversation was drowned out as the mare who was singing before walked over. Follow me. I'll show you to the Queen's room. You really should let her handle Pride. She knows how to calm him down. It's a good idea, Shadow. Let's hide for now. Trust me on that, Stardust said, turning to follow the mare. Copper Pipe. It's been ages since I've seen you. How have you been? We followed her as she led us through another door and up a couple flights of stairs as she talked to Stardust. It's been great, Dusty. It's great to see you back in town. I wish you were here last month. You missed a good shipment we stole from the Van Dams. They never saw it coming.
Damn. I missed a raid on those assholes? I always miss the fun.
What happened after? I bet Missy was pissed. She was. But the Queen reminded her that this is our town, and we don't let ponies just come in with a ton of energy weapons without letting us know about it. Those wannabes deserve it. They think they're all that, but they got nothing on the Queens, he said, laughing with her. It was almost like he was flirting. We got to a large room with a heart-shaped bed in it, a desk in one corner, and 2 doors on each side of the room. Copper Pipe smiled. You can wait here till the Queen's done. I'm gonna go back downstairs and pretend I'm taking a break from singing so Pride doesn't get suspicious. This place ain't half bad, Horace said, walking over and laying down on the large heart-shaped bed, yawning. I could use a rest after that fight. Hey, Griffin, don't just go laying in her bed like that, Stardust said, looking horrified that Aura would dare sleep in the gang leader's bed. Who cares? It's just a bed, Aura said, closing her eyes as shouting echoed from downstairs. The words were unintelligible, but I could tell they weren't polite. Ignoring my friends, I started walking around the room to look at the various knickknacks the Queen had. It was then I noticed a terminal on the desk. There was a display case next to the wall with the most beautiful pistol I'd ever seen. It had a long barrel with engravings running down the handle. It was dark blue with dark purple markings along the barrel. In the middle of the barrel, there was a gem that had a slight glow to it. I wanted to hold the gun so bad. I tried to open the case and grab it, just so I could look more closely at the engravings. Sadly, the case was locked. Frustrated, I looked at the terminal. I was sure the Queen wouldn't want me looking at the terminal, but I tried at least to log in. Of course, it was locked too. For fuck's sake,
I just want to look at it.
Wingnut looked over at me.
You okay, Shadow?
Why does everything have to be locked all the time? I can't even hack into this thing or pick the lock because I don't want the queen to be mad at me for doing it. Stardust cut off his bickering with Aura. What? That terminal and the gun case? The queen's been wanting that open for years. She can't find a key and doesn't have the talent to open the things like you do. I brightened up a little. You mean, if I got this terminal open, the gun case open, you wouldn't mind? If you got that thing open, I'd let you keep the damn thing, the queen said from behind the door, making me jump. I looked over at her. Really? What happened with Pride? He left in a big huff. I told him I wasn't going to hand you over and that I didn't care one bit what he thinks he can do in my town. Tomorrow I'm going to send a message to Mr. Tops and tell him I don't want the Sins hunting down any pony of freedom anymore. I'm sick of dealing with them, she said, walking over to her bed and looking down at the resting griffin. Looks like someone's made themselves at home. Yeah, thing's comfortable, Aura said with her eyes closed. The queen put a hoof under the griffin and tossed her across the room. Damn, she's strong. Stardust started to laugh as Aura glared over at her. Hiding my own snicker, I walked over to her as she sat in the bed. So, would you really let me have that gun if I was able to get it open? I've got no use for it. The terminal's been here since I moved in. Same for that display case. I've got myself a nice pistol, and I don't have a use for that one. Let's call it payment if you do the job I want done, she said as she gazed over at the beautiful pistol. I walked back over to the case and pulled out my bobby pins. I worked on the lock as the queen started to talk. Aura walked over and sat next to me, trying to hide her scowl at being forced away from her nap. Let me start with you, Dusty. I wanted to talk with you a couple days ago. From what I heard, you already know about the Sins trying to find you again. I had a feeling that's what you wanted me, or when Shadow told me you wanted to meet. I figured it'd been so long they wouldn't be bothering with New Pegasus anymore. I thought so too, but something happened recently that got the Enclave all riled up. I haven't seen the Sins in a couple months. Then a few days ago, Pride and Wrath started showing up in Freedom. Sightings of the others started coming after not long after. When I first ran into the courier mare the other day, it was the first time I heard you were looking for you. Wingnut was sitting next to Stardust, listening intently. After she finished talking, he asked, Why are they after Shadow and Stardust anyway? Where I'm from, we heard about them now and then, but I always figured it was a ghost story. You know, just like how you hear that Pinkie Pie will get you in the middle of the night if you're bad or break Pinkie promises. She smiled down at the colt. I honestly ain't sure. The Enclave isn't big on letting ponies on the surface know what they're up to or why. She sighed, then looked over at me as I worked on the lock, and this thing was hard. Already gone through 6 bobby pins. You know what y'all could have done to piss off the Enclave enough to come after y'all like that? No idea. All I know is that a few days back, they attacked me at the old F&F Tools factory. They were also looking for Stardust. They said he was an escaped prisoner and dangerous. They wanted me to give them information on him. I thought it was stupid and told them as much. I ended up getting into a firefight with them and killed a few. After I got help by some mysterious pony, I escaped and didn't run into them again, I said as I slowly turned the screwdriver. The lock was almost turned. And fuck! Did anything else happen between you when y'all got to New Pegasus? I got into a fight with some griffins from the Red Talons, blew a hole in the clouds with a spell, fought some cazadors, and saved Wingnut. I took out my last bobby pin and started on the lock again. Wait a minute. What was that about blowing the hole in the clouds? The Queen asked. Yeah, you didn't say anything about that before, Stardust said, looking over at me. I thought I did. When we were under attack, I kinda went a little nuts. Hard to explain, but in the end of it ended with one of my spells blowing a huge coal hole in the clouds. I explained, giving the lock one small twist, then, Ha-ha! I win, bitch! I opened the lock and took the pistol out of the case, marveling at its beauty. It looked like it was intended for an Earth Pony or Pegasus. The muzzle grip had a padded trigger. I pulled out the mag and found it empty. Whatever ammo it used was big. The case must have been enchanted because the gun looked like it had been freshly maintained. It even smelled like it was oiled recently. Ignoring the triumphant look on my face, the queen face hoofed. I had to explain it. You open the cloud cover. Hill ponies don't know nothing. I gave a look at her quizzically. What? What the Steel Rangers told me, the clouds were back in half an hour or so. What's the big deal? Or aside.
The Enclave uses the cloud cover like a shield. It keeps the normal Pegasi from going down to the surface. And same for the keeping ponies down here from knowing what's going on up there.
Not to mention you blew a hole right where the border to Stardust is. I'm sure that's got a lot to do with why they're hunting y'all, the queen added. I wasn't trying to blow a hole in the sky. I was trying to not kill another griffin. Aura gave me a funny look.
You killed griffins while you were out there too?
Well, I killed one? I wasn't in my right mind. They were trying to kill me, so self-defense? She got a concerned look.
I heard that a couple griffins died from the attack. Since I didn't talk with Apollo, I had no idea who it was.
It was then I remembered Apollo saying something about killing his son during the attack. Apollo was Aura's father. Oh, goddesses. Killed Aura's brother. Looking back at her, I frowned. Apollo said something during the fight about the griffin I killed being his son. For some reason, Aura looked almost relieved.
That moron? Fuck. I mean, hell, he was family. But he was as dumb as a sack of Brahma manure. I'm surprised he brought him on that mission. Normally, he's kept behind his backup.
Wait a minute, you're not pissed that I killed your brother? I asked in confusion.
I'm not happy about it, but I'm not pissed. That's life. You fuck up, you die. Honestly, the only reason no one else was killed him before is because Apollo kept him back, like I said. He might have been family, but he died doing his job. That's the best way for a griffin to go down.
Okay then, I said, looking back toward the queen and the others. So, back to what we were talking about. So because I blew a hole in the sky and pissed off Winterfrost, the big bad Enclave wants me dead? Put it lightly, yeah. It's because you're with Stardust too. He's been on the run for a while now, and they'll find any reason they can to get information on his whereabouts. Can't tell you more than that. The queens don't deal much with them if we can help it. I'm glad to hear that. But anyway, can't do much right now to get them to leave me alone. I think it's a good idea to take you up on whatever job offer you have for me. If it can get us away from the danger for the time being, then I'm game, I said, looking over the gun. Oh, but before I leave to do anything, I need to see if I can find a pony named Nexus.
Wait, who's Nexus?
Aura asked. Nexus is a terminal and pip-buck expert. He travels around helping ponies with this and that, sets up security for towns, the queen said. How'd you hear about him? Some pony calling himself Watcher told me that he could help me out with unlocking some files on my pip-buck. I slipped the gun into my saddlebags and a notification came onto my pip-buck. Legendary weapon acquired. Dreamwalker. Weapon has a 30% chance of the round exploding on contact. I looked at my pip-buck, confused. It's a legendary weapon? How does it know what it even is? And what makes it legendary? Wingnut walked over to me, looking at my pip-buck. He reached over and selected the weapon with the pip-buck.
This looks like a special weapon. Let me take a look at it.
I pulled the gun back out and handed it to him. You know about guns?
I've read almost every copy of Guns and Bullets that I could find,
he said, taking the gun and looking it over.
Wow, this is a 50 caliber Desert Eagle Luna edition. They were a special weapon made during the war by Iron Shod Firearms along with F&F tools. They were first issued to high-ranking members of the Royal Army. The Lunar edition has a gem placed in it that would at times enchant the bullet to do different things. This one looks like it was made to explode bullets when it hits a target, but it's random.
He handed the gun back to me. Damn, you do know a lot when it comes to guns, huh?
I like to read, and knowing what different weapons do and how they work helps us keep us alive,
he said, pulling out his revolver
Like my revolver. It's a 44 caliber, full barrel revolver. It's nothing special, but it's an easy gun to find, especially for a colt like myself. I looked at my new gun with awe. I checked my pip buck. Sure enough, I had some 50 caliber ammo. I pulled it out and loaded Dreamwalker. I wonder my pip buck knows that it's called Dreamwalker. It's just like how it knew the name of Wolfestus. Ponies have a special bond with a weapon and will name it from time to time. I'm not sure how, but a pip buck just happens to know what those names are. Something to do with their internal magic.
And the Queen got off her bed and walked over to me.
Like I said, it's payment for the job I have for you. Plus, I'll throw in some caps, true.
Yeah, that'll work fine. What did you need me to do?
Well, funny enough, you said you needed to find a Nexus. It just so happens I know where he is, and where I need you to go, y'all should run into him.
I frowned a little. I was told he was in New Pegasus.
Normally he is, but like I said before, he goes around to other towns and helps out with different things. He never stays in one place too long. He's a friend of mine, and when I last saw him, he said he was heading to a town up in the hills called Frosty Summit. It used to be a ski lodge before the war.
What's he doing up there? Doesn't he know what's up in those hills? Stardust said, giving the Queen a funny look.
Of course he does,
she said, looking over my friend. What's up there? I asked, having a little deja vu of Stable 9.
Alicorns,
Stardust said.
Alicorns? You mean like the goddesses?
I found that hard to believe. They weren't alive anymore. Their souls ascended to make them goddesses. And you now?
Not exactly like Celestia and Luna,
Aura interrupted.
They're creatures that you see more back east. I've run into a couple of them a couple of times when traveling with Tripwire. They're very hard to kill. They have this thing about getting all ponies to join something called Unity.
Yep, they're monsters. But the ones up in Frosty Summit ain't like the ones you've heard about back east. They don't bother no pony, and they seem to be tame, the Queen said. Nexus said he wanted to go up there and ask him some questions. Help him with setting up turrets to help protect ponies from the NLR or the Steel Rangers, and whatever else comes knocking at their door that they don't want, asking for a cup of sugar. He didn't tell me much else. I'm not sure how you can ever trust one of those things. I ran into a few of them when I first escaped my stable. I was lucky to get out alive, Stardust said.
I'm not too sure myself, but I just know some Talons have dealt with the ones from Frosty Summit before. He told me they're strange, even for Alicorns,
Aura said. Well, whatever they are, why do you need us to go there? I asked.
Simple, really. There's a pony that's hiding up in there. He's a new Dashite from what I heard. I want you all to go find him. See if he'd be willing to come here to Freedom and talk with me.
Why would you want a Dashite to come talk with you?
Easy. Dashites know a lot about what's going on up in the clouds, and the information is always good for helping me keep my city safe. I at least need you to talk with him and tell him of my offer. I can also help keep him safe if he comes here.
I can see how it'll hurt to at least give him your message. She smiled at me.
Good. But that's not all I need you to do. I've been hearing rumors about an underground fighting arena going on somewhere in the sewers just north of the city. I know some strange ponies set up a town down there, but the idea of a fighting pit worries me.
why?
I mean, it's not like ponies fighting for money is that big of a deal,
Aura asked.
It does when I'm hearing that it's a fighting pit using slaves and monsters from the wasteland. I need to know if the rumors are true, and if so, it needs to be stopped. It's too close to Freedom. I can't have that kind of ruckus too close to us, the Queen said. I'll throw on an extra 2,000 caps if you get this one done for me.
I took a moment to think about it. Are you sure they're using slaves?
From what I heard, yeah, but I have no proof. If I did, I'd send my own ponies there to take care of business. But if the rumor turned out to be false, I can't have it look like my gang's moving on other settlements outside of Freedom.
I looked over at my companions. What do you think?
Doesn't matter what I think, Shrimp, but I don't like the idea of slaves. If there's even a small chance they're using them,
I say we go check it out,
Ora said. I hate agreeing with her, but I think she's right, Stardust added. Wingnut just shrugged.
I'm not staying behind, so I don't care where we go.
Okay, I guess we're in then. Glad to hear it, she said with a smile. Oh, and one last thing. When you're done in Frosted Summit, swing by Crimson Canyon south of there. I have a request letter for the red talons I need delivered. Ora's face grew dark.
No way. We aren't going anywhere near there. Even if I did want to go back home, I've been banished. I'm not allowed near there.
Normally that's true, darling. But aren't you under contract with Shadow? The Queen asked.
I am. So what?
If I know the rules of your former talent company right, then there's a little old loophole about banishment. If you're under contract and your pony has work up that way, then you can go with. See? Loophole.
Yeah. It's a small loophole and not one I really want to risk. I also don't want to go back to that place. I haven't earned my way back into the group yet. And if they see me coming back with another mare...
She stopped for some reason. Looking back at my friend, I asked, What's wrong? What does traveling with a mare have to do with your banishment?
Nothing. Just, I don't want to go. That's all, Shadow.
I know you don't, and I really don't want to make you, but apart from the Queen's request, Apollo asked me to stop by and meet with the rest of the leaders of the talent company. I was planning on going soon anyway. I'd like to have you with me to watch my back just in case something happens.
Shadow, you don't know what it's like for me to be going back home. It could hurt me in the long run.
How we try and make it as quick as a visit as we can. And if it helps, I won't let anyone there give you any trouble. You're my friend, and you work for me too. If they don't like that, then whatever Apollo wants with me, he'll have to wait until he can get the rest of them to accept you. She smiled a little at me.
You'd really do that for me?
Of course I would. What are friends for?
Fine. We'll go. But we'll make it as fast a trip as possible.
I agree. I don't want to spend too much time around more griffins. Being around Aura is hard enough as it is, Stardust said. Good. Now, all I have to do is figure out a way to fix my duster, or at least get new armor, and we can be on our way. Good to know, the Queen said, walking over and adding 3 markers to my pit buck. There. Now I suggest y'all head out. I'll have some of my ponies escort you out of town. Oh, and you'll be needing this. Give me a small package. Thanks. And what about the rest of my payment? You'll get that once you're out of town. As for your armor, try talking to one of the caravans. They're always wandering around outside the town. I'm sure one of them will have something that can help you. Okay. Let's go then. I looked back at my friends. Finally, Stardust said, then looked over at the Queen. It was good to see you, Queen. Thanks again for the heads up. Don't be a stranger, Dusty, she said, giving him a smile and a wink. Remember, you're always welcome at Freedom. We were about to leave when the door to the Queen's office flew open, and in walked the weird buck from the pool. Only now he was dressed in one of the Queen's gang's leather jackets. His mane was done up and forward. He looked around the room, saying in his oddly masculine voice, Sis, I heard something about Pride making a ruckus earlier. Then he paused, his covered eyes falling on Stardust.
Well, hell, look what the breeze in the door, and crawled back in.
Oh no. No. Why the fuck is he here? Stardust said, hiding behind me and pointing at the other buck. In a flash, the buck was behind me as well, his nose inches from Stardust's.
Well, we meet again, beautiful. I told you that you couldn't resist, Sugarbuck. I'm gonna wrangle you like a rhinestone cowbuck. How about I treat you to some sugar? Sugar. Oh, who's your friend there, Stardust? You never told me you had a buck friend.
Aura teased. Shut up before I cut off your digits and feed them to the mutated squirrels. Sugarbuck, honey, don't tease my guests, Queen said, looking over toward Sugarbuck.
Come on, sis. You know I like a buck with wings.
Sugarbuck said, then turned to look at Stardust in the eye.
I'm gonna call you Baby Blue.
I know, but they were just on their way out. I've got work for the mayor there. She's a current mayor from the radio. He looked over at me and went from eye-raping my friend to being in front of me.
Good goddesses.
Are you really the courier mayor?
Yeah?
It's an honor to meet you. I've been following you since that first report a couple weeks ago.
Can I ask you a question, though?
Sure, I said, trying to back away from him as politely and discreetly as possible. What did you do to your mane, honey? Last time I saw it, you were doing it up with a braid. Now it's all beat up and dirty. Crime against nature. It was then that I remembered I never got my mane ties back from Wingnut. I glared over at the Colt, who only smiled at me.
What? I still think it looks good.
Kiddo, never tell a mare what looks good when it comes to her mane, wardrobe, or mood. Not unless you're a pony like me.
But she does look good. At least she did before her fight with the fat Pegasus.
Wingnut, give them back, I said sweetly.
Or what?
Or I'll make Aura get them back for me, I responded, giving him an evil smile.
Can't do that, boss. I don't hurt children. It's in the contract, and I kind of agree with him.
What good is a dangerous griffin mercenary when you can't use her to get your stuff back from an evil brat? I sighed and looked over at Sugarbuck. Any chance you can help me out sometime?
Honey, for you, Sugarbuck is at your service anytime,
he said. An hour later, we were leaving Freedom. Sugarbuck, I came to find out, wasn't that bad of a pony. He was just really excitable. It seemed once he had something to concentrate on, it didn't bother Stardust as much. Though he did keep glancing over my friend, giving him goofy looks, and he did flex his muscles a little. Now my mane was clean and done up in its normal braid. Turned out that Sugarbuck's special talent was fixing manes and tails. He gave me a new set of mane ties, much to the dismay of Wingnut. Now he was escorting us out of town with a couple other ponies from the Queen's gang. Stardust was following close to me, doing his best to keep me between him and Sugarbuck. Keeping his eyes forward, he said, "I had no idea the Queen had a brother. He doesn't go around telling many ponies about me, and I do the same. The gang knows who I am, and that's all that matters," he said as we walked through the north gate. "This is as far as we can bring you, honey. Be careful. You're still close enough to the city that those nasty sins might come after you. Once you're in the sewers, though, you should be safe." Thanks, Sugarbuck. It was nice to meet you.
Same to you, honey. Make sure you come back soon, and do bring him with you,
he said, giving me a smile. Then he blew a kiss at Stardust, who ducked behind me. Aura was doing her best to hide her giggles.
"Stardust, aren't you gonna give your buck a kiss?"
"Fuck off, Griffin," he said, still hiding behind me. Which was funny because he was too big to hide behind me. Wait, behind me. To avoid him getting any funny ideas, I pushed him aside. Sugarbuck just laughed and walked back to Freedom. I just shook my head and started making my way northwest, following the road towards the marker that should bring us to the sewer town. It was then that I saw a Brahmin, 2 ponies walking in front of it. Looks like a caravan. Let's go see if they have any armor for us. They should stock up on ammo before we go, too, I said, making my way to town.
"Oh, look! She's finally learning,"
Aura teased, following close behind. As I grew closer, one of the ponies saw me and started to run towards me. Before I could react, I was being hugged by her, and the voice of a mare I hadn't heard since I left Cartwheel.
Shadow, is that really you? I can't believe you made it all the way here.
Pulling away, I looked over at none other than Silver Snip. She looked a lot better since the last time I saw her, and had the biggest smile on her face. It took only a moment for me to find my voice.
Silver, what the hell are you doing here?
Footnote. Level up. New perk added. Locksmith. You've had a lot of practice getting into things that aren't yours. Yet. Now you can pick more difficult locks, and have an easier time picking average locks.